I'm reminded of the story of a soldier that fought in the Spanish Civil War and had been captured by the fascists. He was put in prison and he began to realize that he may meet the same fate of other soldiers that same day, and that was to be executed at the break of dawn. He began to reach in his pockets looking for something that he could fumble with to calm his anxiety, and happened to find a cigarette that was in his pocket. And barely just trembling, being able to put up at his mouth, and realized he didn't have a light to light the cigarette. He looked through those bars that had separated him between him and the guard and looked at the guard, but of course the guard wouldn't make eye contact with him, because why would a guard make eye contact with the corpse of tomorrow? So he said to the guard, says, "Excuse me, do you have a light by any chance?" And so the guard shrugged and came over, and all of a sudden there was eye contact between the two. And that eye contact, it seemed like there was a spark that had jumped from the heart of the soldier through those bars over that gap between their two hearts. And the soldier instantly just smiled in return. And that smile transferred through the bars, and it generated a smile on the guard's face. And the guard began to strike a small conversation and began to ask him if he had kids. And the soldier began to, "Yes, I do." And he fumbled in his back pocket, and he happened to have a picture of his kids. And the guard began to tell a little bit about his own family and kids, and the soldier, meanwhile, started to break down in tears and realizing that he may never see his kids again. And he began to tell this and about the hopes and the plans and the dreams that his kids had, and realized that he would not see them, and told them to the guard. And the guard, all of a sudden, in silence, with tears welling up in his eyes, opened the gates and led the soldier out and drove him outside of town, and in the same silence led him outside the car and drove away. You see, it was a simple smile that reached through those bars of life and that touched someone in people's hearts that saved his life. And you know, all of us today, we're kind of in that same situation where sometimes we have bars of life that separate people. And that whether those bars are layers that we put up to protect ourselves, or maybe they're hide behind positions and titles or dignity. But all of us have those bars that tend to separate us. And one of the things that we can do is to reach through those bars of life and to touch someone's heart. You know, it's difficult to do. I know for me it's very difficult at times. And oftentimes I look at people that seem, they're doing fine. I don't need to encourage them. I don't need to ask them how they're doing. And then I began to realize that even in my own life, that sometimes outward success doesn't always dictate inward peace. And I think we need always, all of us, like to be encouraged. We loved it, and it touched each one of us. I know it did for me when Dan went around and realized and encouraged us of what we did. And sometimes leaders, especially at the top, need that same encouragement. And Dan, I want to encourage you to keep pressing on. You're doing a great job. And it's difficult sometimes being a leader at the top and not having that same encouragement when everybody's saying, well, we can't do more, we're cutting back on resources. But I think every one of us here is one to give you that encouragement. In fact, let's just give Dan, if you can repeat after when I say it on 10 to 3, go, Dan, go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Go, Dan, go. You know, that's tough at leaders. And I know, Dr. Fowle, that I spent a lot of times on the roads, and sometimes it's difficult being away from family. And you know, it's nice to get the paycheck at times, but it really is nice to know that you're making a difference. And I can say that you are one of those that's reaching through those bars of life and touching my heart as well as all of us and making a difference. And so if we can just say, go, Glenn, go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Go, Glenn, go. And appreciate your time and to know that you are making a difference. And there's other times, though, where I just feel uncomfortable, that I just don't know what to say to someone. That, you know, whether it's being in an awkward situation or maybe it's easier for me just to avoid that person. And I think of a great time that I had that opportunity that I had wished I could walk away from it. And it was about almost a year to this very month that I was with my dad in the nursing home the days before he died. And he had a roommate in the room named Clarence, and Clarence was been in the home for quite a while, was an invalid laying there on the bed. And he kept asking for things. He was never happy. He wanted a glass of water, and you gave him water, and he wanted a blanket. He wanted to be turned over. He kept asking you. And I about was ready to turn to him and says, don't you realize my dad is dying? I just want some peace and quiet, and pull the curtain across and wish there was a solid door there. But one of the days I walked in, and I finally just took the time to talk with him. And then he realized that, gave him his glass of water and pulled the blanket up over him. He just wanted someone to talk to. He was an accomplished, successful engineer, made many innovations. And he'd been in the hospital, and his son lived only 2 hours away, and he began to brag on his son, but his son hadn't been there in 3 months. And all he wanted was just someone to reach through those bars of life and to touch his heart for a moment and express it. I'm glad that I'd spent that few times, because I went back a week after Dad died to talk with him and found out he had died unexpectedly that night before. But sometimes it's awkward, but we can reach through those bars of life and touch people's hearts. And other times I think is that maybe those small gestures or those small comments, that word of encouragement, that pat on the back, really doesn't make a big difference, so why bother taking the time to do those little things? And just like the smile that can somehow set us free sometimes from the bars of life, it takes time to say those little things. And I've got a wonderful 5-year-old boy named Hans, and we have a great time together. And one of the things that I ask him frequently, every now and then I'll come down before him and I'll say, Hans, what's the most important thing in life? Hans will look at me and he'll say, well, to love God with all my heart, Dad. And then I'll ask him, what's the second most important thing in life? And he'll come back and he says, to love others. And I remember one time that I realized that love not expressed is love not realized. And one time I had been through several meetings here this winter and on the road quite a bit, and was getting ready for another 3-day conference somewhere, being away from home. And I remember sitting in our laundry room, and he was sitting there, and I knelt down before him, and I looked him in the eye, and I said, Hans, and we've done this before, and he says, different times when we're out at night and we look up at the stars, and says, Hans, I love you more than all the stars that there are. I remember telling him, I said, Hans, I love you more than all the meetings that I have. And I remember he looked at me and he stared me right in the eyes and he says, you mean, Dad, you love me more than work? And it was something that I realized that what I want my son at some point in time is to realize that I love him more than anything in life. More than work, more than whatever it is that I do. But love not expressed is love not realized. Life is more than programs. It's more than jobs. It's more than positions. Life is about people. Customer service is about people. Our jobs are about people. Our co-workers are about people. And we need to realize and to think about it. How can we seize opportunities in our days to reach through those bars of life and to touch people's hearts? How can we do that and take those opportunities? And we can make a difference in people's lives by simple gestures, by those words of encouragement, by that smile. We can help people take the scars that are in their life and turn them into stars. We can help people to take their tragedies in life and turn them into triumph. And we can help people take their disasters in life and to make them their diamonds. We can make a difference. You all can make a difference. So reach through those bars of life and touch people's hearts.